Firstly, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for putting aside some time today to join us, and it's great to see so many of you. The main focus for this meeting was really to say welcome and thank you very much for taking on this role, to talk a little bit more about the role, because I know lots of people have been asking some questions about it. For you guys to make some connections with the other people that have taken on this role, and for us to introduce ourselves, for those of you that don't know us. So I could start by introducing myself. I'm Philippa Cotman, appraisal lead for London, and I'm sure I know lots of you, but probably not all. But I'll hand over to Jackie.
Hi there, I'm Jackie Smith. I'm the Senior Manager for Appraisal and Revalidation for London. I can see Debbie's now with us.
Yep, Debbie and Riz, so perhaps you could introduce yourselves.
So hello, I'm Debbie Frost. I'm another one of the Deputy Medical Directors at NHS England, and have gone through a bit of this process already myself. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rizbia Khan. I'm one of the Deputy Medical Directors as well, and one of the appraisal and revalidation leads, mainly for South London, but we're pan-London now.
And anybody else in our team arrived? Maybe not. There might be some of us joining later, but
I'm
Liz is there.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Liz.
Yeah, so I'm Liz Henderson. I'm same as the others, Deputy Medical Director for NHSE.
Great, thanks, Liz. Yeah, so we wondered whether it would be helpful for you to make some connections amongst the other people that are taking on the senior appraiser role. So please feel free to put in the chat who you are and which bit of London you are. Hopefully we've got a wide spread across London. We've tried to, when we were asking you to apply, to try and get an even spread across London. So it'd be nice to know who's here. So do use the chat and say who you are, where you are. We thought for this, we've only got half an hour, but we thought we'd try and cover a bit about what the role is, a bit about the process for one-to-ones for yourself, a bit about payment, and some time for questions. So I hope that's okay. So we've got a few coming up in the chat. Tower Hamlets, yes, hello Nicola. Southeast, Southwest, Southeast, Hackney. Okay, so we're getting a bit of spread. Central London, Sally's from Central. Okay, so the role of senior appraiser, it's new, it's a journey for all of us, but it's great to have you with us, more integral part of the team, and taking on another role. A lot of people felt, you know, with being appraisers, I've been an appraiser for quite a long time, what can I do next? So we're really pleased to be able to have an opportunity to get you more involved with doing something else. And we've been trying to do the one-to-ones ourselves with appraisers for a long time, and we're a very small team, and the appraiser team has become very large now. There are actually 730, I think, Jackie, last count. Yeah. 730 appraisers across London, which is too many for us to do all ourselves, which was, so the main role at the moment is to help us roll out the one-to-ones for every appraiser in London. And as Debbie said, we've done this for ourselves. So we've devised a new updated the one-to-one process. We've tried it out on ourselves. We've all found it really useful, I think, to do it for ourselves. And we hope that you'll find it useful for yourselves to get some feedback on the role, to have a chance to reflect on the role, like a mini appraisal for your own role as appraiser. And then once you've had that yourself, a further short training session just to recap on the process and how you will then roll it out for your peers. So I think that's the first major role for the senior appraiser role. But we'd like to think that we could involve you in other things going further forward in the future, if this all goes smoothly, and hopefully more opportunities will come up, perhaps in education training of appraisers. Should we just go over the process of the one-to-ones that you'll have yourself to make that a bit smoother? Jackie, have you got the appraiser for appraisers document? So hopefully you've all been sent these documents, but there's two documents I'd like to talk about. One is the appraiser for appraisers and the other is the supports tool. So at the moment I've got a blank screen, but hopefully Jackie's computer system takes a little time to crank up, but hopefully in a minute it'll appear. But this is a kind of mini appraisal document for you to do before. Yeah, okay, great, it's appeared. So hopefully you've got this in your inbox somewhere from Jackie, which is hopefully a short and easy document. And some people have done it already, actually. But we've just to say we've sent invites out to 25 of you so far. So the first 25 should be in the process of organising their one-to-one fairly soon. And just to say, when you do fill this form in, if you send it to the DMD, and that's the ones that are on this call, so Riz, Liz, Debbie, myself, and Maureen, who hasn't joined yet, but might be joining shortly. So one of us will be appointed. If you send this document to us rather than to Jackie, because Jackie will just end up having to forward it on to us. So this is the document, just who you are, the date you're going to meet, once you know that, a little bit on CPD for your appraiser role, what have you done, how are you keeping up to date, what do you think about the changes that have come in. And the next bit, which I think is somehow how we've written the form, but lots of people are putting the supports score in the quality improvement bit, but really it was the quality improvement bit was a chance for you to have a think about an appraisal and your appraisal skills as a kind of case review type of quality improvement activity. But lots of people are just putting the support score in there, which we've actually intended for the box after next. So yes, the quality improvement one, treat it as a case review type of approach. And then feedback for in your role as appraiser. Hopefully you've all worked out how to get your feedback from Clarity. If not, we've got a very simple guide now of how to do this, and we can share it with you all if that's helpful. But you basically go into Clarity as an appraiser, and then you can click on in the top left section, it'll give you feedback as an appraiser, and you can just ask it which year you want, and then you can get a PDF of your own feedback. But let us know if you need instructions of how to do that. We can send it out. And then the final box in this is the supports score, and it might be helpful to change to that document in a minute, but the supports tool is just a tool for looking at summaries. So lots of people have said, oh, my summary is okay. How do I know? This is one way of looking at it. It's not perfect. None of them. There's been about 5 different ways of reviewing summaries of appraisal, but this is just the most recent one. And it's just, as I say, not perfect, but gives you some things to measure your summaries by. And we'd ask you to just look at a recent summary of yours and self-score yourself, and we'll do a score as well. And then a proposed PDP in your appraisal role. And then the rest is actually for after the meeting. So it's quite a short form. Okay, so we just look at the other form, which is the supports tool.
Can you see that or not?
Yep. Yeah, that came up very quickly, Jackie. Thank you very much. So this is it. It's just on the left-hand side, it's just got what it's looking for, and then you put your own score and you highlight examples of where you've done this well or where you might think there's room for improvement. So you could just scroll down hopefully you've all had a chance to look at this, but that's just one way of having a look at a summary in a kind of objective way, I guess. So the total score is 20, and then yeah. So Debbie's got a hand up. So
Debbie? What I was going to say is that this is like we think with appraisers, it's about being reflective. It's not about a definite score. I mean, I scored myself, I think 15 or something like that, because actually it was a really good process. I really started looking at my SOAS again after a number of years. So there's no pass fail is what I'm really saying. It's just, it's better to be reflective as we
exactly.
hope,
yeah. Exactly, Debbie. And Katie's put, are there criteria that you want in? I mean, yes, there's some things in the in that supports tool that you might think, well, why is it asking me to write that? That's written somewhere else anyway. So yeah, I quite agree. There's things in it you might go, actually, I don't want to score 20 out of 20 for this because and fair enough. I think actually some of them are possibly duplication. So it's just a discussion document really, rather than as Debbie says, not a pass fail, but there might be things that you pick up from it. You think, oh, I could do that a bit better, and that would be useful for either me or the doctor or the team or the revalidation people. Yes, exactly like health and probity statements is a duplication, exactly. So I don't put those in myself. Shall I hand over to you, Jackie, to say something about the payment processes?
Yes, can do, thank you. So the payment will be at the educator rate of £80 an hour. We are, I think the best way to do this is we're going to make it a non-PO invoice. We're going to provide you with the template email once you start appraising. So after the formal part of the training, which I think Philippa, did you mention the training earlier? Not sure. Yeah, okay. And so once you actually start appraising, ideally once you've completed some, I would say around about 4, put your invoice in to include the training hours that you've done with us. And then we'll make those payments as non-PO. We'll send you all of that information once you start actually doing the appraisal one-to-ones. It's really all there is to say on payments.
Jackie, could we have a bit of clarification about how many hours are expected from each of the senior appraisers in terms of getting the one-to-ones done, so that we've got a ballpoint figure in terms of hours to submit an invoice?
Yeah, so I think we were talking about, Philippa, just remind me, I think it was it 4 hours for 3 one-to-ones?
Yeah. And I think Riz meant maybe how many to do before sending in an invoice, and I'd say probably 4 seems reasonable number to do. I think it's to avoid having an invoice for every single transaction, so that it's not too admin heavy for Jackie's team. So yeah, just to say, actually, there's 5 of us DMDs doing the one-to-ones for you, and your group of the senior appraisers. We probably should let you know there's about 70 of you, and hopefully you can start making some connections with other people. You can see who's where in London. So that's going to take us a while, but we've allocated the first 25, and yes, the process will be that we'll get in contact with you, say we're available, when we're available, and hopefully find an available time that we can meet up. So that we'll do the first 25, then hopefully do some training for you guys, the first 25, so that you can start with the rollout, so that we're not having to wait for all of you to have your one-to-ones before we start rolling it out. So it's a kind of sequential thing. So we're going to do 25 first, then the next 25, the next 25, hopefully finishing all one-to-ones with senior appraisers by the autumn, so that we're rolling it out to all the others. I think somebody asked, is it annual or is it a one-off? I mean, I think to do 730 annually is a big ask. We haven't managed to do it for years. So I think it might be if there are kind of needs identified, it might be a more frequent, and if people are doing absolutely fine, it might be less frequent, so every 2 years or every 3 years. Okay, anybody got any comments, questions?
Can I just clarify, there's a lot of questions around the payment, and this is another one of those. So if we're billing 4 hours for 3 one-to-ones, presumably it makes more sense for us to bill in units of 3, not in units of 4. Otherwise, it's going to be very complicated. So
Yeah,
we could
that
bill
seems
for
a good.
3 or
That
6
seems a
or
good
9
suggestion.
or 12.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think the maths is going to be more complex than is necessary. And there's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
number of questions in the chat about pensionable and all that kind of stuff. I'll let you answer those.
Yeah, it's not pensionable. This is just a payment for us providing a service. It's not an appraisal payment.
Hadn't thought about that one. That is a question. So how many appraisers of appraisals will people be doing each year? We think about 10 or 12, and we'll, with all of you doing it, we'll make a serious indent on the 730. Hopefully, with us doing some as well, we might have even covered the whole year. That everybody in the year. And yes, one-to-one meeting takes about 45 minutes. Thanks, Liz. That's roughly what we found. Some take a bit longer, some take a little bit less, but 45 minutes for the actual discussion and 15 minutes for the paperwork. Yeah. Did I see Linda's hand up? Did I see? No. Anybody else? Any questions?
Lily's got a hand up.
Lily.
Hi, hello, hi everybody. 2 questions. The first one is, do we get allocated to our one-to-ones once we've submitted the appraisal for appraisers? Is that the prompt to get allocated? Because you said you're allocating 25. You've allocated 25. So I wasn't clear from the email that we got. I was waiting to know who I was allocated to, but I didn't know if that was prompted by me, by the first step being me submitting my appraisal for appraisers to one of the deputy managers. So that's my first question.
Okay, shall I go for that one first?
Yeah.
Not quite. We kind of sent the forms out to everybody to just to let people get on with preparing their own. We have individually contacted the 25 first people, so those people will know, and it'll be, you've been allocated such and such a person, and they'll be in contact arranging a date.
Okay, fine. So just to be clear, it's independent. That allocation is independent of us filling out the appraisal for. Okay, fine.
And if you have been allocated somebody, please send those forms to that person rather than back to Jackie.
Okay.
If you haven't been allocated anybody, hang on to them until you're allocated. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. The second question relates to money, and money always complicates everything. So the way in which I've understood it is that if it's £80 an hour, then it's £40 for half an hour. So for this half an hour that we spent learning now is £40, and then if it's three one-to-ones. So that's the way in which I understood, and I could be wrong, is that's £80 for per hour, which will be an hour. So that's £240 for 3 one-to-ones. I just think that it's really helpful if it's absolutely explicit. Is that correct?
Yep. And the training will be in addition. So when you do your training, that will be another hour, another half hour, probably.
That's fine. So Jackie, it would just be helpful in the email, just so that everybody, it'll save you a lot of time if it's explicit, absolutely explicit. And as I think Sally pointed out, make it easy. It will save you time. Thanks very much.
Will do.
I did see another hand go up.
Kate?
Yes, sorry, this is a question about paperwork. When we carry out the one-to-one appraisals on the appraisees, other than invoicing for our time, what do we then do with the documentation that has been completed? Who do we send that? What do we send, and who do we send it to?
Thanks, Kate. Perfectly good question. We were going to cover that in the training, but we will come up with a system for who to send it to, and when and where we're going to store it. But yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I can see some maths going on in the chat. I think Lily's right. Let's make it explicit. It's always complicates things, but yeah.
Can I just quickly say something about the paperwork? I think there's a bit of anxiety about the admin.
I think we can hear you, Maureen. Sorry,
Maureen, thanks very much for joining us. Could you introduce yourself first, because you weren't here at the beginning? Let people know who you are.
Can you hear me?
Just.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Sorry,
That's
I was late,
better.
everyone. Hi, I'm one of the other deputy medical directors, so I'll be appraising some of you. My comment was just about the admin, so don't be intimidated by the level of admin, because it's not like a normal appraisal. It's quite light. It doesn't take that long to prepare, so I think 20 minutes is actually sufficient from the ones that I've done. Would you all agree that I've done them?
Yep, I agree, Maureen. And I'd just like to pick up on Lily's comment. What's the hope from this exercise, which I think is a good, really good thing to think about. I mean, for me, I think it's largely an opportunity for people to reflect themselves on their role. And I think for those of us that have done it so far is really positive. Debbie, I don't know if you want to say anything about how you found it, but we've all learnt lots, but we've all found it really, yeah, a good experience, I think.
I think that's right. I mean, I've been doing appraisals for many years, and it was very good to. And I've been using some of these support tools to look at my appraisals in the past. But actually, talking it through with somebody who's another appraiser was a real privilege in some ways. You know, to have 45 minutes, a bit like appraisals, to have 45 minutes to sort of talk about you as an appraiser, actually was quite helpful and useful. And I think it's something that's been missing. So I was really pleased with that. Of course, there are other people like me who have been appraising for many years, and you might think, well, she's not actually doing a very good job, and that's part of learning. So if this is 99% of, or probably even more, are going to be fine. But if there is somebody that you think needs a bit more learning as an appraiser, then that is something we're hoping for as well, because we want to make sure that our appraisees have the best, appraisals as well. But for 99% of appraisers, this will be a really positive experience.
Yeah, and just
Lily said, what does a good job mean in this? Well, I think it's lovely when you've come out of something, when you've come out of your own appraisal and you think that was a worthwhile way of me spending a couple of hours. I suppose I've learned something, or I've reflected well. So it's different for different people, but I think that it's not a tick box exercise. It's really this kind of feedback is invaluable, because I think the feedback you get through Clarity, when I've done it, I've done that feedback so many times. I think to really get good feedback will be in these one-to-ones. So I'm very excited to hear about what you find, how you find it.
Yeah, I completely agree, Debbie. For the most part, it's going to be really a positive thing that might identify some learning needs for some people. And actually, it is part of the quality assurance of the whole appraisal system. So it is something that we do actually need to do, and we haven't done for a long time. And as Debbie says, we don't want people out there to be not having a good experience of appraisal. So we need, in order to check that, we need to have some kind of quality assurance process. So it may identify some people that have some learning to do, or some updating to do.
And Philippa, somebody's asked what you. I think if you feel concerned about somebody, just come to one of us and talk it through first, because who knows what our expectations might also be very high. But this is, hopefully this will be a learning experience all round.
We've got a question from Adam, who's quietly had his hand up there.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Very nice to see you. My question is, so in the 45 minutes, is there some kind of outline of, presumably we'll have that in our training, about points that we should attend to within our conversation with the appraiser? So there's obviously going to be a narrative of conversation, but are there things that we shouldn't not attend to in the conversation? That's kind of a framework for things to include.
Thanks, Adam. I kind of think the framework is probably the summary document, which is like a mini appraisal in a way, CPD, quality improvement, feedback in your role. It's kind of like, in a way, the same structure as appraisal is.
Sure.
Is there anything that you shouldn't cover? I mean, yeah, hopefully it's appraiser centered in the same way that appraisal is. And what do people want to get out of it? But I think it's partly doing your own one that's a learning experience before you do it with other people.
Yeah.
And we'll learn lots through doing some more with you guys to sort of refine it even further before we roll out and and see what's useful to do in that training session.
Sure.
And in the same way as everything, we're all very, you're all very highly skilled, and if there's something that you need to go down and a road you need to go down, we don't want to make it too prescriptive. The form's quite prescriptive. Well, the form's, you have to sort of fill in the form, but the new appraisal is so much about health and well-being, and if that was missing from what somebody's doing, then I'd just like to know that everybody's asking about health and well-being, because it's difficult out there, I think.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks. There's a question about what forum, telephone call, Teams or face-to-face. I think that's like with appraisal, jointly decided between you and the person you're allocated to. But I think for many, I think it will be an online meeting for efficiencies, I think. But if people particularly wanted to do face-to-face, I'm sure that's possible. There's some more questions about payments and things, Jackie. I think we'll have to sort of take some of these, have a look at the questions afterwards and try and address them all in an email that goes out. And not all of you are here, although I think there's 62 altogether, which is quite a big turnout. So thank you. But we'll try and learn from this and answer any questions when we send out the summary and the link to everybody else that's not able to be here.
I think that we should say that we haven't looked at feedback in order to select you. I mean, I think that because there's a question about, did we look at the feedback in order to select the senior appraisers? And I'm pretty sure we didn't, did we?
There's a question from Alex, perhaps the final question.
Just on that point, sorry, can I just come in there? Jackie, is there functionality on RMS where the appraisers, so every one of you can actually look at your appraisees' feedback? Because I know that there's been a few questions on that. I don't know about RMS so much, but certainly on Clarity. Can we actually, all of us here, access our own? I mean, I know that I can.
Yeah, yes. We all can, Riz. We all can, and Jackie and I have done a PowerPoint 2 slides of how to do it. And also, we could share with you that Jackie's managed to find a way of having a website for all London appraisers. It's through Futures, which some of you may be on for different reasons, NHS Futures, and we'll be hopefully launching that soon, and we can put all of these useful things in there. But we can email it out to everybody, but it's really simple, and everybody does for clarity, and we're trying to get it for 14 fish, but we haven't quite got there yet.
Okay. Final question from Alex.
Thanks, really helpful. Just a quick one. Presumably you will make sure that anyone we do a mini appraisal of isn't someone we've appraised, presumably, or that is that the intention, or it could happen. I don't know.
Or you could let us know.
Yeah, I was going to
We
say
let
probably
you know if that happens, we just come back
any
to you.
conflicts at all.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's fine. Yeah, it's probably better if it's not. Okay.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the half hour. Philippa, did you just want to say a few words to sum up?
No, just thank you all once again for coming today. Thank you all for taking on this role, and I think it's at the beginning of a new journey, which I'm really looking forward to, and excited that we've actually managed to get this off the ground. So yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for being in touch. Oh, there's a question. Victoria's got her hand up now. Did you want to ask something, Victoria?
I'm not sure, does my mic work?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, just keep asking. So it was whether we could see what feedback they've had or not. So when we appraise somebody, normally we can see their patient feedback. Are we going to be able to see appraisers' feedback from their appraisees?
Good point. Only if they share it with you, so they can get it themselves. Yeah, but that's a good thing. That's a thought. We could ask for you to send it to us, along with the supports tool. But yeah.
Yeah, you can actually even embed it in the same document at the bottom. You can cut and paste and put it right at the bottom, but that makes the document slightly bigger.
That's okay. I think it's a bit invalid if we don't see it. That's all.
Yeah.
The process, because there are some appraisers who are a bit, on the end of the tick box bullying spectrum that I think we should be reining in, between you and me.
That's what this process is about. So quality assurance across the board.
But unless we see the data, we can't do quality QA.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a Nazi police person, but
I think we're going to have to ask them to access their own feedback and send it back to you along with their supports tool.
Seems reasonable to ask for. Okay, recognise it's a few minutes past now. Thanks again, and we'll be staying on if anybody's got a burning question they haven't managed to ask yet. We'll be staying on for a little bit if you want to, but realise that everybody's got busy things that they probably need to be getting to.
Okay, thanks very much.
Just a quick question on when we should have heard by if we've not been allocated a DMD yet.
Over the summer, so we're doing the first 25 now. The next 10 to 25 hopefully we'll send out in July and then August. So we recognise there's lots of holidays, but yeah, hopefully by September we'll have done everybody.
Thank you. And you're going to release the training dates, right? Just so we can get them in the diary in advance.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Lily?
Sorry, I just want to say thanks. This is really useful. I think it's really important. Just took a few things. What went well about this meeting is that it's happened. I think, there's been a lot of talk about how, I've been asking appraisees if they work in other roles to bring an appraisal in their role and their other roles. So I think this is useful. A few things just from the meeting point of view. I think that music always helps, or something, a community choir, something, they're recording. So while we're waiting, as before we kind of join, it humanizes us. If the intention this exercise is to start to humanize our appraisal conversations, then we have to be humanized in our experience. So just even better if I'm happy to link you up with some, I mean, the community choirs, recordings, you can just play the music at the beginning. It brings the community, which is after all what our purpose is here, into question. So into our mindset. Just one other thing is that I think that, again, with everything that we do, we have to know why we're doing it. For me personally, the domain that is the most important in appraisal, I mean, they're all I actually think the GMC framework is a very useful framework. I'm an advocate of it. But I think within the 4 domains, the most important is maintaining trust. It is the least well understood for a whole range of reasons. And it is the domain that I pay most attention to with my appraisees. And I think, again, in the course of our learning as senior appraisers, I think I would like to be part of conversations that develop this domain. So maintaining trust. So those are my kind of thoughts moving forward. And I suppose the last thought is that if this process works and is effective, which is why I asked the question about the hope, then you should not need this process, because it should be a transient intervention. Because what you're wanting, or what we are wanting, is that when we appraise somebody who has an appraisal role, that we as an appraiser are able to appraise that appraisal role. So in a way, what you're doing is you're wanting to set in place something that will be self-sustaining. So just some thoughts to think on those things. I thought I would just share it verbally with you and not put it in the chat. Is that all right? Happy to have further conversations about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lily.
Thanks, Lily.
And we did cover domain 4, trust and equity, and in a recent appraiser conference, which went down really well, and Debbie, who's here, helped facilitate that. So it's definitely more conversations to have.
In terms of the whole, Lily, so in terms of the whole self-sustaining, the whole reason why we're having this in the first place is to make sure that we're all up to the same bar and the same threshold, same level. And what we have found over the last couple of years, and certainly when I was doing one of my one-to-ones with another senior appraiser, is that they were scoring not even, they weren't even touching double figures. And so I think we've lost sight of that slightly because of the fact that we've had the pandemic, other things, and that quality assurance has simply not been there over the last few years. And that's partly because, you know, of the numbers that we generate in terms of our appraisers. We've got 730 or so appraisers, but also the logistics behind that. So that's exactly what we're trying to do, you know, making sure that we are all at the same level, really, in terms of what we're appraising. Because if we are not, as appraisers, if we are not at a particular level, what kind of service are we giving as appraisers to our appraisees? And I think that's something that we need to really be mindful of as well. But yeah, no, absolutely take your point. Really interested in your music though. Don't know how that, if you can send us a link, that would be great.
Okay, there's no other questions. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you all soon. Have a good day.